Were You Ever a Child? By Floyd Dell. Chapter 8. The Conquest of Culture in America. The first organized schools in America were theological seminaries. This was due to the fact that the New England colonies were theocracies, church states. No one, not a member of the church, had any political rights, and the heads of the church were the heads of the state. In this special kind of class government, it naturally followed that theology was the prime study of ambitious youth. But as the colonies grew more prosperous and the rule of the more godly became, as a matter of fact, the rule of the more rich, the theological seminaries of New England changed by degrees into more easily recognizable imitations of the great gentleman's son schools in Old England. Such, in particular, was the theo-aristocratic genesis of Harvard and Yale. The gentleman's son school was thus our first, and for a long time, our only educational achievement. The humble theocratic beginnings of these institutions did indeed leave a quasi-democratic tradition which made it possible for not only the sons of the well-to-do, but for the ambitious son of poor parents to secure the knowledge of Latin and Greek necessary to fit them to exploit and rule a virgin continent. But beneath this cultural perfection, to meet the needs of the great mass of the people, there was no organized or public education whatever. The result was a vast illiteracy such as still exists in many parts of the South today. The private and pitiful efforts of the lower classes to secure an education took the form of paying some old woman to teach their children the 3 R's. Of these 3 R's, the last has a significance of its own. It is there by virtue of a realistic conviction born of harsh experience. A man may not be able to figure and yet know that he is being cheated, and so far as getting along in a buying and selling age is concerned, arithmetic has an importance even more fundamental than reading and writing. Yet, in the list, it stands modestly last, for it is a late and vulgar intruder in the sacred company. Even in a young commercial nation, the old belief in the rescuing magic of the word still holds its place in the aspiring mind. But why, you ask, quarrel with this wholesome reverence for books? Well, suppose the working class acquired such a reverence for books that it refused to believe it was being educated unless it was being taught something out of a book. Suppose it worshipped books so much that when you offered its children flowers and stars and machinery and carpenter's tools and a cook stove to play with in order to learn how to live, suppose it eyed you darkly and said, "Now, what are you trying to put over on me?" But that is to anticipate. It was due to the organized effort of the working class that public education was at last provided for American children. Our free public school system came into existence in the 30s as a result of trade union agitation. Its coming into existence is a great good upon which we need not dwell, but its subsequent history needs to be somewhat elucidated. The public school system was founded firmly upon the 3 R's, but these were plainly not enough. It had to be enlarged to meet our needs and to satisfy our genuine democratic pride in it. So wings were thrown out into the fields of history and geography, and then there was still an earthful of room for expansion. But no, it was built up. And why? The metaphor is a little troublesome, but you are to conceive pinnacle dim in the intense, inane, or suspended from heaven itself, the gentleman's son's school. And this was what our public school system was striving to make connections with. And lo, at last, it succeeded. The structure beneath was rickety, fantastic, jerry-built, everything sacrificed to the purpose of providing a way to climb up there. But the purpose was fulfilled. The democratic enthusiasm which created the public school had in fact been accompanied by any far-seeing theory of what education ought to be. And so that splendid enthusiasm, after its initial conquest of the 3 R's, proceeded to a conquest of Greek and Latin and the whole traditional paraphernalia of aristocratic education. Every other purpose of public education was, for the time being, lost sight of, forgotten, ignored, in the proud attempt to create a series of stairs which led straight up to the colleges. The high school became a preparatory school for college, and the courses were arranged, rearranged, and deranged with that intent. Final examinations were systematized, supervised, and regulated to secure the proper penultimate degree of academic achievement, as, for instance, by the famous Regents examinations. The public school lost its independence, which was worth nothing, and its opportunity, which was worth everything. It remains a monument to the caste ideal of education. For the theory which underlay the scheme was that every American boy and girl who wanted an education should have the whole thing in bang-up style. What was good enough for gentlemen's sons was none too good for us. That there might be no mistake about it, the states erected their own colleges with plenty of free scholarships to rob ignorance of its last excuse. These state colleges, while furnished with various realistic and technical adjuncts, and lacking in the authentic hereditary aura of their great Eastern predecessors, were still echoes, sometimes spirited and more often forlorn, of the aristocratic tradition of centuries agone. With a reluctant addition of a kindly scheme for keeping very young children in school, the system now stretched from infancy to full manhood and embraced, in theory, the whole educable population of the United States. In its utter thoroughness of beneficent intention, the system was truly sublime. The only trouble was that it didn't work.